It was the day of Ta'if. Zayd was the only person with the Prophet ﷺ on the day of Ta'if. So the Prophet ﷺ went out there. For 2 weeks he was mocked, he was humiliated, he was made fun of, he was kicked from door to door. Every single person that rejected the Prophet ﷺ in Ta'if did not just reject him, but rejected him in the most humiliating way possible. And Zayd was with the Prophet ﷺ. When finally at the end of calling people to Islam in Ta'if and looking for someone to take him in ﷺ, to shield him, after all of this had happened, they lined up 2 rows of their kids and the thugs of Ta'if. They lined them up into 2 rows, and they made the Prophet ﷺ walk between those 2 rows, and it was a stretch of miles. And each one of them hit him with a shoe, spit on him, punched him. The Prophet ﷺ fell over multiple times. Not a single part of his body was not covered in blood, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He recalled even his shoes being full of stones at that point because of the amount of times that he was knocked over and the amount of the torture that took place with the Prophet ﷺ. And Zayd was trying to go in front of the Prophet ﷺ to stop the people, to stop the blows of the people from reaching the Prophet ﷺ. So imagine having witnessed that, the most painful day of the Prophet's life. Aisha radiallahu anha asked the Prophet ﷺ what the worst day of his life was. Was it Uhud, when he almost died and many of his companions were killed? The Prophet ﷺ said, no, it was Ta'if. That was the worst day of the Prophet ﷺ's life. And Zayd radiallahu ta'ala anhu was with the Prophet ﷺ, trying to protect him and guard him. He saw the Prophet ﷺ go under a tree to seek respite after having walked and being beaten for how long? For over 15 miles. Beaten, tortured, turned away. That's enough to break any human being. Right? Especially, he's already lost Khadija, he's lost Abu Talib, he's lost ﷺ, his closest family. Mecca has no hope. And Zayd radiallahu ta'ala anhu saw the Prophet ﷺ take respite under a tree and call out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the most painful of words, asking, where do I go next? Ila man takiluni. Who are you going to leave me to? Who do I go to at this point? Am I entrusted to a stranger? Am I entrusted to a close person? Who's going to take care of me? What is my next step? And the Prophet ﷺ is looking for answers desperately in those moments as the blood is still fresh on the Prophet ﷺ. Zayd was with the Prophet ﷺ when Jibreel alayhi salam came to him and the angel of the mountains and offered to the Prophet ﷺ to punish his people for what they had done. Not just to crush the people of Ta'if,